We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live, Boxing Ego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. I'm not gonna lie to you, kid. Crawford Madrimov, the fight week, it feels dry. Listen, Riyadh season, the fight is among us. Ego thoughts. I told you I'm going back to the basics. Ego thoughts. It doesn't have to be a dedicated topic that everyone's talking about. More so things that I want to talk about and my observations. So without further ado, I'm peeping the scene, and I feel like this Terence Crawford versus Madrimov, when it first was announced, you heard all this like buzz and a bit of hype because there's a lot of fights and some very good fights on the undercard. Now, something I've maintained is what I've always said from the beginning. In my personal opinion, I think leading with Terence Crawford, specifically with Madrimov, because he's an unknown name. Madrimov has 10 fights, 11 fights or whatever, and people don't really know him. Plus, from the perspective of Terence Crawford and him being kind of the A side in the equation, he's not really known for this huge personality that lights up on camera and this star power and charisma. And that's what we're getting. And I think it was a mistake to lead with that with this given fight, because in the words of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, there's a rule and a law that should be observed, and it's never outshine the master. And I truly believe that you got undercard fights that people are more excited for, the public, boxing public, as opposed to the main event. And I think that's kind of hard to lead with, if that makes sense to you. So, a couple mistakes there. Leading with Crawford, particularly with an unknown opponent, when you know what you can expect. Crawford in the ring, masterful, very fun to watch, great skills, hell of a competitor, and very deliberate, very menacing as a fighter. Outside the ring and that type of stuff, he's not going to give you the extra. He's not going to put on a show. The interviews are probably going to be kind of boring. It's weird because it's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. If you were to watch Crawford interviews, you wouldn't think, if you just based on the energy that he provides in his interviews or whatnot, you wouldn't think that this is the same guy and he would be that savage in the ring as a fighter. And it leads me to today's video regarding Crawford Madrimov. It truly feels dry to me. And I know I can't be the only person who feels this way, but I gotta be real. I gotta keep it a stack. I gotta keep it 100 with you. This fight just feels dry, it feels empty. And I think another problem was leading with Crawford Madrimov. They want to force feed you that Crawford is this star so bad that they're putting the whole promotion around him because he's the main event. But again, the problem lies when you have fighters on the undercard who are more fan favorite and or outshine the master and or people are looking forward to their fights. Guys like Andy Ruiz. There was a guy in the crowd and he had this Andy Ruiz makeup and Andy Ruiz like memorabilia, all this stuff on him. He was like decorated up for Andy Ruiz. And then I seen a lot of people taking pictures with Pitbull Cruz. Crawford and Madrimov, I think it could be a good fight because I respect both fighters, but I just feel like in terms of the fanfare, the reason people aren't anticipating and the tickets don't sound like they were selling that good before they had drastic price slashes and price cuts is because if it's a fight where a guy is not necessarily a household name, then somebody got to carry the promotion. And this is what I said about Terence Crawford. That's why I previously said bad business bud, because at the end of the day, he's going to give you everything in the ring, but for the rest of it, you're going to be on your own. And I don't really know what Riyadh season their end goal is. I know they have money and they're willing to spend the money, but it becomes a bit problematic when you're destitute to lose money, because Crawford, you probably have to overpay him for what you're getting. And I don't say that like to offend, I'm just being real. Everybody has a market value for what they provide. And there's people out there, whether you like it or not, who know how to MC the crowd and get the crowd riled up and things like that, to the point where financially they might be looked at as more profitable, right? You see this in Hollywood as well, where you have a Hollywood actor, and that specific Hollywood actor is commercially successful, so they'll put him in a lot of movies. Even if you don't think that actor is the best actor, they'll still get a lot of roles because of their brand, and you know, women like them, or if it's a female, men like Sydney Sweeney or something. Sydney Sweeney's probably not the best, well, she's not for sure the best actress ever, but because she's eye candy, you know, in her brand, she might get certain roles, right? And that's how the game goes. And I think it all revolves around the almighty dollar, unless you're just looking to waste money and stage events for bragging rights and brownie points amongst fans. And I don't know what the end game is. I don't work for Riyadh season, but I'm just giving you guys my honest opinion. And my honest opinion is it feels dry. And the other thing that's rather shocking about that is how dry it feels with a loaded up stacked card. Like, they gave Terence Crawford every single opportunity to win here by loading up the undercard with working with all these different promoters, something that, you know, isn't really done all the time to this extent. So you had all the supporting cast that you needed to try to become a mega star, and it doesn't seem like it's being accepted and it's resonating with the public, because like I said, it seems like dead door, and I'm not really hearing a bunch of excitement. I don't doubt that the fights will be good, because I'm a hardcore boxing fan. I'm just talking about Crawford has zero crossover appeal. That's what it's looking like. You give anybody else that has some crossover appeal, or a lot of it, like Gervonta Davis or Canelo Alvarez, this same undercard, and it would be sold out pretty quick. They're not gonna have to do a bunch of price deductions and slashing the price and things of that sort. In fact, the tickets, they were more aggressively priced beforehand. They had ringside tickets for like $700. So they were in the thousands to get ringside, but then now, because they were struggling to sell, and I seen that people are putting out posts saying that this is a sold out event, whatever. We'll see what the live gate is. The tickets weren't selling. They had to keep slashing the prices, and it feels like almost a non-existent fight week. And that's just being real. I mean, I'm still gonna do the watch party, still gonna commentate the fights. I think we'll get some good fights, but whatever the case is, Crawford does not seem to be the crossover star that they imagine and that they're pushing. And I think, again, the error was on behalf of the organizers, because you know how the saying goes, if someone shows you who you are, you gotta believe them. Riyadh season and the organizers of this particular Crawford Madrimov card, other promoters dealt with Terence Crawford and it didn't appear to be viable, and it didn't appear to be super successful. Bob Arum said that he lost a bunch of money with Terence Crawford. It's not my words. This is what Bob Arum said. So Bob would probably have the most intel and the most data on Crawford because Crawford spent a large portion of his career with Top Rank and Top Rank Boxing, like 10, 11 years he spent with them. So to ignore what Bob Arum, who has years and really a decade plus of data on Terence Crawford specifically, and then think you're going to like resurrect or change the narrative of Crawford and, you know, give him this all-star cast and make him a hot ticket. It's just seldom do things work like that, right? Seldom do the things work like that. Where if somebody, like let's say Bob Arum had a car. Bob Arum has a car and then he spent a lot of money on that car trying to get it up and running. And then it didn't fully get up and running. And by up and running, I'm talking about turning over to a crossover star, right? And then Bob Arum says, you know what? I'm just gonna cut my losses. I don't want this car anymore. I'm not gonna really fight for this car anymore. I'm just gonna sell it. He sells it to BOK Prime. Then PBC does the one-off with Errol Spence, which is, in my opinion, probably Crawford's highest earning fight ever, right? And then now you have the organizers of Crawford Madrimov who are trying to paint this picture that Crawford is a mega star and like this big bona fide star and things like that. Back to the car analogy that I just gave, Bob Arum had the same car and he told you, in my experience, this is a loss leader. I'm losing money with Terence Crawford, point blank, period. Now, initially, I'll be honest, a lot of people believed that Bob Arum was stifling or just saying it to hate on Terence Crawford. But fast forward to the future, Bob Arum doesn't sound so wrong. He doesn't sound so delusional in saying what he was saying about Crawford, like, hey, I lost money on every Crawford fight, things like that. Because I don't know how much money they have to lose, but it doesn't sound like this fight has been bankable. Even people like Ryan Garcia have come out and said that Crawford can't sell. He's not a star, blah, blah, blah. Tickets ain't selling. Guys like Tim Bradley, he said that. He came out and said that he heard through the grapevine, being in the industry, being in LA, being from SoCal, that the fight ain't selling. And all in all, it's just interesting to watch, to put all the eggs in the basket of a product that other promoters had to be more reasonable with in terms of like the marketing, and they told you what to expect. And it's not really a shocker to me. You're leading with Terence Crawford and the crossover appeal ultimately is not there. So people can say whatever they want. They can say I'm hating. I don't really care about any of that, because at the end of the day, what you ain't gonna do is prove me wrong. If Terence Crawford is a megastar, then this fight week should feel impactful, right? Not, and see, a lot of people confuse it. Because I do think the fights will be good, or we'll get some good out of the fights, right? If something crazy happens or somebody gets upset, then yeah, it'll get some recognition or go viral online. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about profitability in terms of this crossover stardom. And we're not really seeing that from Terence Crawford. You guys can say whatever you want. It is what it is. And people have been trying to deny this. And Crawford himself, you notice for the Errol Spence fight, you seen Crawford, he seemed like he tried to turn up and do a little bit more and be more engaging. And then he kind of went back to his true form, which is almost anti-media, not gonna give you much on the promotion, gonna pick and choose kind of some weird interviews to do, not the most popping people. Like he did an interview with Bill Bellamy. And then I remember watching at the time, I didn't even know Bill Bellamy had a podcast. So you didn't go to like the Breakfast Club or something like that. Not to say he's never been there, but I'm saying to promote this fight. So I just feel the promotion has been weird and people are anticipating the undercard more than the actual main event. And rightfully so. I think some of the undercard fights are better, despite me feeling Crawford Madrimov could be a very good fight. Something is not clicking, and I've given you guys my truest thoughts. Again, some people are gonna be like, oh, you're hating Ego. I don't really care, because again, you can't prove me wrong. The day you can prove me wrong is the day I'll care. Ego thoughts.